Hey guys, it's Kyle here and welcome back to the channel. Today I have this 2011 Malibu with about 153,000 miles on it that it has a couple things going wrong with it, but today we're just going to focus on the rear shocks that need to get replaced. I ordered these Monroe brand OE Spectrum shocks for this car and we're going to be installing them today, and I'm going to be taking some measurements to see if it raises up the car a little bit. Before I get started, I'll just show you guys kind of what these look like. Out of the box, they look like shocks. They say that you want to prime these, and all that you need to do is just kind of push them down steadily all the way, and then they're not super easy to push down. And then I didn't have my Monster today, so it's a little bit of a struggle bus, but you want to do this about 3 times before you actually install them and let them expand all the way back up. We also have some other mounting brackets here, and we'll make sure that we install those. Sorry guys, I almost forgot to take measurements before we change these out. Before we swap these out, I said I was going to take some measurements, and I would say that we're at 27 inches and we'll go 13/16. Now I have to jack this car up quite a ways because right now I'm jacking underneath the suspension, which is fine for right now, but while we actually swap these parts out, I'm not going to be able to do that. So with this floor jack on the suspension, I'm going to put a jack stand somewhere underneath either the pinch weld or another spot that looks suitable for this car. This car is pretty high up off the ground right now, so hopefully there's enough room to get my jack stand under. Now we're going to take the wheel off and see what all we need to take off in order to get to the shock. You want to make sure that you try and keep these in a good spot. Don't just throw them on the dirty floor because you want to keep these threads nice and clean. Now that the tire is off the car, we have a nice chair to sit on while we take a look at what else we need to get at. As far as the best brakes for your money can go, I've used various different kinds over the years, and these Bosch Quiet Cast pads and rotors, they last so long. They don't make any noise. They stop very, very good. I have no complaints, and they're pretty cheap as far as what you get for them. So I'll throw a link in the description for these, and like I said, they're awesome. It's always a good thing to have a nice headlamp when you're doing work underneath your cars. It just makes it easier to actually take a look and see everything that's going on. I have this PB blaster here. I'm going to start soaking down some of the nuts and bolts on the shock mounts. That way it comes off a little bit easier when we get to those. I'll bring you guys in here just so you can see. We're just going to spray a little bit of this PB blaster all over the mount. And by a little bit, I mean, yeah, I'm going to spray a lot. It's Minnesota. There's a lot of corrosion, so I don't really care. If this makes it come off easier, I'll spend a couple bucks on it. We're also going to get the lower bolt here. I'm not sure if there's a great way to show you, but I will try my best. There's not really a great way to show you guys, but I will try. If you follow the shock down, there is a bolt right there. Try and get some of this on there. Right there. While the PB blaster is doing its thing and breaking some of this rust up, hopefully, I'm going to start to get our sockets together for what we're going to need to actually swap these out. So anytime that you guys are messing with suspension parts, you want to make sure that you plan to get an alignment done as soon as you can afterwards. One of the things that you can do to try and prevent it from driving terribly on the way to the grocery store or wherever, if you need to drive it for a couple days, is putting it together as close as you can to how it came apart. Some of these options include using a marker and marking the holes and marking all the parts, making sure that it does get put back together the same way it came apart. I'll show you guys my plan here. I was going to use a screwdriver to kind of put a mark in. That way I could see and line it up perfectly. However, this is a rubber boot right here, so I couldn't do that. I did find a little blue manufacturing mark on one of the corners here, So I'm just going to keep in my mind that I'm going to line up the blue dot with the inside when I put this shock mount back in. Now I'm going to go get some sockets and let's start taking this apart. So far, I believe that we're only going to need a 21 millimeter for the lower bolt and then a 13 millimeter socket for the upper two mounting bolts for this shock. You guys are going to want to make sure that you loosen the lower mount first because it's a lot easier to get the shock out when that one is loose first rather than when you loosen up the top ones first. It's not going to make a massive difference at the end of the day, but it's just a little bit easier. I am very happy that I have my Milwaukee Impact today because in Minnesota, these bolts, I'm not even going to mention it. Let's just see what happens. So this bolt and washer will just come right on out, apparently. Now that the lower mount is out, let's just work on getting these top ones. Just another thing to let you guys know, be ready for the shock to come out when you loosen up the last bolt. So just be ready to grab it. And this is what you'll have once you take it out. So, like I said, remember which side is which side. There's that little kind of blue mark I was talking about. So, it is going to go back in like this. I really hate rust, and living in Minnesota, I can't stress this enough. Some people put thread locker on all their bolts. In Texas or somewhere else, fine. In Minnesota, make sure that your threads are cleaned, and if you ever want to get it off again in the future, I would highly recommend putting some sort of just oily lubricant of some kind on there. Still make sure that you torque your bolts and everything to spec, but if you ever want to get it off again, use PB Blaster, something, anything. The bolt for this mounting bracket, be careful taking this off because you are going to reuse it. This one is going to be a 17 millimeter socket. And remember how this came apart. We're not going to be reusing this, but just remember how these came apart. We're going to grab our new shock. We're going to grab the parts bag that was with the shock, and it will have two of these little plates with another nut. And remember how the plates went on. One goes that way. Then we come in with our mount, making sure that we have the emblem sticking to the outside because it's cooler. And make sure that that's lined up the right way. And then we go in with the top piece here. Hand start all of your nuts. Another little cheat code. It's really nice that when you're doing things one side at a time, if you ever have a question or you're ever, questioning whether or not you did it right, just go to the other side and look. And this is what you'll see over there. Now the socket that you'll need for the nut on the top of the mount here is going to be a 15 millimeter with this new kit. And we have it perfect so the emblem is facing outside. Again, it adds horsepower or something like that. So now we'll put the shock back in, just like that. You do have to reuse these old nuts here, so we'll just get these hand tight. Speed this up a little bit. You will also have to reuse this bolt. And how this goes is it's going to go bolt, washer, shock, other washer. So the shock will get sandwiched in the middle here. Once you get that bolt hand started, then you can go ahead and use your power tools on it. I like to use this Milwaukee ratchet for this kind of stuff. It makes it go a lot quicker for the boring parts, and then you also kind of get a feel on how much torque you're really putting on these. You're going to want to tighten the two top nuts here evenly. Do a little bit on this one, then go to this one, this one, this one, this one, until they're tight. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so when you're tightening, I didn't even say anything about it earlier, but yeah, you may have a bolt that breaks off. So we'll be back after a short break here. All right, guys, so after that unforeseen circumstance, I'm going to explain why I have a jacket, mask, and big goggles on now. And let's go into the trunk now. So, going into the trunk, you're gonna, let's back it up actually, so this gets really fun. So, normally this is not what the trunk looks like. You're gonna have the trunk pan in here, and all these other pieces of fabric. So, you're gonna have to undo these. They just twist on and off. And you're gonna have to take them off of here. I have some of them there. Take out the trunk pan. That way, you can get to back here, and then you should be able to see. I'll actually make sure. So that's where the shock comes through. That spot right there, that is a stud. That one I had to grind off because it got broke. So this is what the normal stud looks like. That is my handiwork. Just a bolt with a nut on the end of it after I used a grinder to grind it off and then painted over it. And then you just slide this paneling back into place. And then you reinstall those black pieces onto, hard for me to move and record at the same time, those pieces onto these, and you're good to go after you put the trunk pan back in. Alright guys, so after that somewhat minor / major inconvenience, we are back on track. I'll show you guys what we ended up doing here. So this is the original stud still that's holding on okay, and this is a new bolt with washers on both sides. That way it doesn't pull through here. I also looked up the actual torque spec on these, and it's 18 foot-pounds. I guess my measurement of 18 pounds of drywall was not correct. Also, this bolt down here where my hand is on, the bottom shock mount, that one is now tightened on there, so we can pretty much go with reassembling everything exactly how it's supposed to be. So we're going to go on with the tire here. After you get the studs to come through the rim, you can kind of just hang it on the top ones and pick whichever one you want to try and start with the lug nut. And then just continue that process. Make sure that you start these by hand again. That way you don't mess up the threads. You can just use an impact just to get these snug on here. That way you can let the jacks down and actually torque them to the correct spec, which is 100 foot-pounds. We're going to do that after we're done with all four. And make sure that you remember to remove your jack stand before you put your floor jack away. Otherwise, you're going to have to re-jack it up to get this out of the way. Now that this side has a new shock in it, I'm going to flip the car around and replace the old shock on that side. After that, we're going to get the tape measure back and measure from the bottom to the wheel well and see if there was any difference. Alright guys, now that the car is flipped around, I have my floor jack supporting the bottom of the suspension, and I have my jack stand underneath the car. I forgot to loosen up the lug nuts before jacking up the car this time, but it's okay. Never fear, Kyle with a Milwaukee is here. So same thing as last time. Gonna put some PB Blaster on the bolts here. We're gonna let that sit and work for a minute. And remember, the bottom bolt on the mount is a 21 millimeter, and the top two here are 13 millimeters. And again, make sure that you catch the washer that is between the shock and the rest of the vehicle as well. Now remember, once you undo both of these bolts, there's nothing holding the shock up, so it's going to fall out again. So once you get both of them broke loose, pick one to completely take off. Hold that nut somewhere else. So now that we have the old shock out, just like on the other side, we're going to use a 15 millimeter to take off this top nut and transfer the parts over to the new shock. Again, remembering how this went back on. And now that we have the new shock, I already made sure to charge it up a couple times, just completely compressing it and letting it fully expand. Now, before you fully tighten this top nut here, make sure that your emblem is facing outside for the max amount of horsepower, and make sure that you hold on to this thing really tight as you tighten it. Just like that. This bottom part is not as important for making sure that it's lined up because this one is always going to turn, so don't worry about this. We're going to use the old nuts that we took off, and we'll get those started by hand. That way the shock can hang there. And we'll get them tightened up a little bit more. That way we can have an easier time getting the bottom bolt in. Now at this part, you can either choose to let the floor jack down a little bit. That way this bolt hole lines up with the shock. Or you can just manually compress the shock while pushing the bolt through in order to get the shock seated in the right spot. Remember that when you put the shock into the bottom mount, the order goes bolt, big washer, shock, other washer, and then tighten. I seem to have tore a glove. Magically, my gloves seem to have fixed themselves. Now we're just going to finish tightening up the top mount here after the bottom mount is fully tightened. Now it's time to put the wheel back on and we'll take our measurements. Sorry, I forgot to take a before measurement from this side, but we're going to take an after measurement anyways. And it looks like we're at 27 7/8 inches on this side after. And this is on the passenger side. It looks like we're at about 28 inches even. Now that we got both of the Monroe brand shocks in the back of this Malibu, I can't complain too much about the installation process, aside from my own mistake of not realizing that the torque spec on the upper mount was only 18 foot-pounds, which is nothing. I can't say a whole lot as far as if the ride quality has changed or anything, because I have another issue that I need to change out on the front end of this car, which I'll be doing another video on probably. I can say as far as what it seems like to me, if I lean on this car a little bit, it kind of seems stiffer, but it seems stiffer, but it also seems smoother. Like there's not a difference in, there's not like a dead spot, if that makes any sense. It's really smooth, but it is stiffer, but it's just really smooth. It's hard to explain. Hopefully when I change out the front end parts, it will really change the ride quality drastically, and I can explain it a little bit better then. As far as the quality on these Monroe brand shocks, I can't say whether or not they are going to last 100,000, 200,000 miles. I can't say that. If I do have any problems with them, I will be doing an update video and explaining those problems, and also if Monroe was good to work with as far as their customer service. So if you guys have your own Malibu and you need to change out the shocks on there, hopefully you can learn something from this video and help you not make the same mistakes that I did. If you do happen to make the same mistake that I did, hopefully I also showed you how to correct that mistake, and it won't take you too terribly long to do that. As another piece of information, we took some before measurements on the passenger side. That before measurement was 27 and 13/16 inches, and we went from that to 27 and 7/8 inches. So it's not supposed to be a lift kit, but maybe that extra 1/16 of an inch is gonna make a big difference. I don't know, but I just figured that I noticed that, so I will let you guys know about it. If you guys have any questions about the install or these shocks or the brakes I've mentioned, anything that you saw in this video that you want to ask about, feel free to leave a comment. As always, I appreciate any compliments or suggestions that you guys might have in the comment section as well. If you guys want to support the channel, any of the Amazon links that I'm putting in the description and comment section help support me so I can continue to create good content for you guys. Also, if you did like the video, please like and subscribe, as those help me out as well. So thank you.